Freedom is not given to us by another. We are responsible for how free we feel, for how happy we feel, for whether we experience life with peace or whether we experience life with suffering. It all comes back to our own minds, to the way that we view reality, the way we relate to life, the way that we think, the way that we act, to our mindfulness, or whether we're living in forgetfulness. And really, our freedom, our happiness, our peace is our responsibility. And mindfulness is the practice of freedom. By becoming aware of what is going on within us and within our experience, we create the recognition of what's happening, and we create space for us to choose how we respond, how we want to lead our lives. And if we're not mindful, we just get swept away by our circumstances. We get carried away by the situations around us, by our emotions within us, by the thoughts within our minds, and we drift through life being disconnected from the present moment reality, which is a big problem because the present moment is the only true reality. Life is only ever experienced in the present moment. This moment right now is all that's ever happening. And of course, everything within this moment is constantly changing. But we're always experiencing life in the present moment. And if we're not in touch with the present moment, we're not in touch with life. And we're missing out on all of the beauty of life, all of the joy, all of the love, all of the happiness, all of the peace and contentment that is available to us in the present moment. With mindfulness, we can touch these elements of joy. We can touch the elements of appreciation, of gratitude, of the many blessings that we have, of the blessing of life itself. But if we allow ourselves to be carried away by our thinking, by our conditioned ways of believing and perceiving, then we tend to just live our lives distracted. We tend to be lost in thought. We tend to be at the mercy of our emotions, of our fears, of our anger, of our jealousy, of our grief. All of this suffering that exists within the minds of most people and within ourselves, we can be free of it simply through cultivating an awareness of what's happening within us and training ourselves to be mindful, training ourselves to think, perceive, act, and live in ways that create freedom and peace for ourselves. It's our choice, it's our responsibility, and we need to take ownership of our lives and the way that we're living our lives. We need to walk in a good way. We need to lead our lives in a mindful and a wholesome way if we wish to experience peace and freedom within ourselves. It's not going to come from someone else. And with mindfulness, with the tools and practices in this course that you've learned in this course and that you've practiced along with me, you have the ticket to freedom within you. You have tools that can allow you to be free, that can allow you to cultivate, to water this seed of peace and freedom within yourself, and to avoid the many causes of unhappiness, stress, and suffering. And it can be challenging. It can be challenging because the majority of society is not mindful. The majority of people are caught in forgetfulness, are lost in thought, are at the mercy of their emotions, are living with a victim mentality, are experiencing life with great stress and great suffering. And so when that is the vibrational field of the majority of the people in our society, it's very easy for us to sort of resonate with that and get attracted to that and caught in that similar way of being, influenced by the ignorance, influenced by the mass thinking of fear that many people are stuck in, or whatever it may be. To take total ownership of your own mind and to bring mindfulness to your mind, to your feelings, to your body, to the perceptions that you have, and to really take ownership of your life in training your mind mindfully. It's a very powerful thing to do, and it's something that the majority of society is not doing. So there is this great influence, there is this great momentum that is always inviting us to get lost in our thoughts, to get distracted, to be caught up in various forms of distractions. But with mindfulness, we can avoid that. With mindfulness, we can really choose our path. We can walk in the way that brings us fulfillment and peace and happiness. It helps us stay in touch with the present moment of life and all the beauty of being alive that so many people overlook and forget. Mindfulness helps us know how to be with our own suffering and how to transform our suffering. And through really getting familiar with our suffering, being able to have compassion for the suffering of others, having insight into ways that we can live and act that may bring benefit to others, that may help alleviate the suffering of the world. In Buddhism, there are many branches of Buddhism, and one of them, a very popular one, Mahayana Buddhism, has this ideal. It's the ideal of the bodhisattva. And the bodhisattva, bodhi means awakened or enlightened, and sattva means being. So the awakened being, the enlightened being, the bodhisattva, in this context, is one that postpones just dwelling in the peace of their enlightenment and realization in order to be of benefit, to be of service to the world, to help alleviate the suffering of the world. Because if we're all interconnected, then I am one with everyone and everything. So how can I just ignore the suffering of the world and just dwell in my own happiness and peace if when so many other people are suffering? When other people suffer, I suffer. And so by supporting the happiness of other people, it makes me happy. And this is a natural evolution of this journey of awakening. It's when we learn how to be with our own suffering, when we learn how to cultivate joy and happiness within ourselves, then we are capable of helping others be happy and joyful and alleviate their suffering. And this is something that can be challenging, and I think a fear that many people have regarding this is they fear being overwhelmed by the suffering. If we really acknowledge all the suffering in the world, it may feel very overwhelming. We may feel overwhelmed by all of the poverty in the world, by all of the abuse in the world, all of the injustice, all of the people that experience great suffering. It can be overwhelming for us to really acknowledge that. But the important thing is that we don't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by the suffering, and we don't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed because we're constantly nourishing with our own practice, our own peace, our own happiness, our own well-being, so that we can take care of suffering. If we're overwhelmed by suffering, we're not really able to help the situation of the world. But if we know the tools and techniques of taking care of our suffering, of transforming our suffering, and nourishing our joy and happiness, then we really have something to offer. We can bring our energy of love, kindness, compassion, joy, and happiness to the suffering of the world, and we can help to alleviate it, help to lighten it. And we can't expect that we're going to save the world, or that we're going to be solely responsible for all of the suffering of the world. That's impossible and impractical. But we are capable of helping one person. We're capable of making a difference in one person's life, or many people's lives, simply through choosing to act in ways that are kind, having this intention of the bodhisattva, of wanting to alleviate the suffering of the world. And I find this philosophy of the bodhisattva to be very beautiful. And they have bodhisattva vows. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but the spirit of the vows are very beautiful to me. There's a vow, there's 4 of them, and one of the vows is that sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them all. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them all. So there's this spirit in Mahayana Buddhism that I just really appreciate, and it's that the amount of beings are endless. There's no way I could liberate them all, and yet I vow to liberate them all. The delusions in my mind, the deep patterns of conditioning, all of these things within myself, they're endless, and the delusions are inexhaustible, and yet I vow to transcend them all. And so it's really this spirit of just fully giving oneself to this journey of awakening, of healing oneself, and being a healing force in the world to the extent that we're able. And I want to invite you to embody the spirit of the Bodhisattva. Because I truly don't think we can be awakened beings if we're not helping the situation in the world. If we're not awake to the fact that of what's going on in the world, and we're not willing to offer our hand and our heart in support in whatever ways we're able to, whatever ways are unique to us. It's another term in Mahayana Buddhism is upaya, or skillful means. And it refers to being skillful in our way of helping the suffering of the world. And there are ways, even if we have the intention to be helpful, some ways may not actually be helpful, and some are. And it really comes down to having the skillful means, this upaya. And that's unique to every person in every circumstance. And it really comes down to having a balance of love and wisdom, or love and understanding. The two really go together. We can't properly love without having a right understanding. So, for example, say that you really love someone, and out of love, you want to give them a tangerine. Say, I love you so much, please, have this tangerine. And they don't like tangerines. Tangerines are actually, maybe they're allergic to them. They don't enjoy them. And you're out of love giving this to them, but you don't understand this person and what they actually need. And so it's not real love in that sense. Real love is paired with understanding. If we understand the needs of a person or people, then we can really love them. Then we can really empathize with them and have compassion for them and understand them, and they'll feel loved. And so in the same way, when we can really open up our hearts, open up our eyes, open up our ears to the suffering of the world and understand it, understand what people need from moment to moment, different person to different person, we can trust in our heart's ability to respond compassionately and kindly in the moment. And I want to invite in this spirit of the Bodhisattva to finish and wrap up this course, because I think it's a powerful spirit to embody, and it's, in my opinion, a next step. If we go through this journey of waking up and awakening ourselves with mindfulness, it's only natural for us to want to then help others. When we come to terms with our own suffering and find ways that we can work with our own suffering, naturally we're going to want to support the suffering of others, or the healing of others of their suffering. So I wanted to speak to this, and there's something else that I want to speak to in this last video of the course, and that is to really emphasize the teaching of the Three Dharma Seals, because this is really what all of these practices point to. It points to a way of perceiving and a way of understanding reality, and that everything is impermanent and constantly changing. Everything is interconnected, and there's no separate self, and everything is beyond our conceptual thoughts and ideas about it. And so really this is what we've been practicing and recognizing in all of these different foundations and meditations. We see through our awareness, through our mindfulness, and through our deep looking into the nature of our experience, we see that our physical body is constantly changing. It's impermanent. All of these sensations that we experience are in a constant state of flow. Our body is in a constant state of change and flow. And our body is interconnected with our environment. Our body depends on the food from our environment, the air from our environment, the water, the heat, the warmth. All of the elements of nature make up this body, and without those elements there is no body. And so our body is interconnected with everything. And also, this body is beyond our conceptualization of it. We may have a word, an idea of body, but the true nature of reality, of the reality of this body, is beyond any of the opinions and thoughts that we have about it. So, if we can perceive the body in this light, if we can see that it's always changing, if we can see that it is interconnected with everything, and if we see that it is beyond our conceptual views about it, we can be in touch with the true nature of the body. And in the same way, with our feelings, the second foundation, if we see that our feelings are like a river that are constantly changing, our feelings come, they're there for a moment, and they go, They're constantly changing. If we see that they are interconnected, that I feel certain ways as a response to the experiences that I have, based on the conditioning of my mind, based on my way of thinking. Our feelings aren't just things in themselves, they are interrelated with all of these different aspects of our experience. And our feelings are also far beyond any words or definitions, descriptions, or labels, or concepts that we can have about them. If we can perceive that, if we can see the ever-changing nature of our feelings, we can see the interrelated nature of our feelings and the aspect of our feelings that's beyond any concept, then we can really be in touch with the true nature of our feelings. And the same goes for our mind. Our thoughts are always changing, coming and going. They're interconnected. They're related to our upbringing, to our past experiences, to the language that we've learned, to the influences that we've had in our lives, to the situation that we're thinking about. They are, again, beyond our conceptual understanding. And likewise, our perceptions of the world itself, is constantly changing, is interconnected and whole, and is beyond all of our views and opinions and concepts about it. So these three Dharma seals are really pointing to a way of perceiving and a way of experiencing reality that is in touch with the true nature of reality. And when we go back to the causes of suffering, and we talked about avidya, or ignorance, being the root cause of the kleshas, the root cause of the disturbances of the mind, our lack of understanding the true nature of things causes us to perceive things in inaccurate ways, and causes us to be confused about things, and to create stories, to have thoughts and emotions that can cause us suffering simply because they're not in harmony with the way that things actually are. And so through our mindfulness, our awareness, our deep looking, our insight that arises from that deep looking, we can have understanding that awakens us, that frees us from unnecessary suffering, and allows us to be in touch with the way that things are. And so in this context of these three Dharma seals, if I am deeply in touch with the way that things are, and I can perceive that everything is in a constant state of change, that everything is interconnected and interrelated, and that everything is beyond anything I can think or say about it, then I can be in touch with the true nature of the reality of the present moment. And I can see all of these aspects within my body, within my feelings, within my mind, and within my perceptions of the world. And what that creates is an experience of no longer holding on, no longer clinging so tightly to things being a certain way, to my expectations for things being a certain way, and no longer pushing away or trying to fight against things, but understanding the nature of things and relaxing in that understanding. That is what generates freedom within us, where nothing that we experience has any impact over our sense of well-being, our sense of peace, because we've made peace with the nature of reality. We're at peace with the fact that everything is changing. We're at peace with the interconnected nature of everything, and we see it. We're at peace with understanding that everything is beyond our conceptualization. So I really find that all of the Buddhist teachings are pointing to an experience of reality that allows us to perceive this nature of impermanence, interconnection, and nirvana. And it also helps us awaken our hearts as bodhisattvas to have more compassion for others and for the world. When I know that everything's impermanent, when I know that my relationships are impermanent, when I know that every person in my life is going to pass, is going to die, then I really can have deep compassion for them. I can really have more empathy for them, more forgiveness for them, more kindness for them, because we're all in this experience together. When I see that everything and everyone is interconnected, I no longer feel separate from everything. I no longer feel like I'm isolated and alienated and fearful of reality, because I see my oneness with it. When I understand that things are beyond any concepts or views I can have about them, I can get in touch with the way they really are. When I'm not confused by words like the word tree and my concept and idea about a tree, I can experience the tree as it really is. I can really get in touch with this unique being in this unique present moment of time. So, seeing the interconnection, or seeing the impermanence of things, seeing the interconnection of things, seeing the way that things really are in the moment, all of this allows us to have more skillful means, to be more compassionate, to be more kind, to be more deeply in touch with life, and to be more free, which is really what all of this is about, is experiencing life with freedom, with peace, and with happiness, and freedom from the suffering that exists within the mind that causes us so much chaos, so much stress, anxiety, and fear, to be free of that, and to be free to experience life, to experience the beauty and the joy and the happiness that's available to us. This is the power of these teachings. This is the power of having a consistent mindfulness practice. And it's important that your mindfulness practice be consistent. It's important that you water the seed of mindfulness in you every day through these practices. And you don't have to do every single one of these practices every day. I encourage you to get familiar with each of these practices so you can know how to apply different ones at different times to help you stay mindful. You can use your body and awareness of your body to stay in the present moment. You can use your feelings and mindfulness of feelings to stay in the present moment, and to know how to be with your feelings, to know how to feel your feelings and to process these emotions. You can use your mind as a tool to help you stay mindful, to be aware of your thoughts instead of getting carried away by your thoughts. You can use mindfulness of your perceptions of the world to stay present here in the moment. So I really encourage you to get familiar with these practices, and I hope that you've already gotten familiar with them through the 14 days of these lessons, as well as this half-day retreat. But you may need to revisit them, and I encourage you to do so. And I also encourage you to find practices or a practice that really resonates with you, one that really speaks to you, and that may change over time as well. Perhaps shamatha meditation is the meditation that you really feel resonant with, that you really want to work with for some time. And I encourage you to do that, to go deeper into that, to stick with that, and to perhaps master that meditation before finding another one that resonates. Then perhaps it is the body scan, or the naming of feelings, or the just being, just sitting in your resting as awareness. Whatever it is, find the meditations that resonate with you and continue to incorporate them in your daily practice to nourish and water the seed of mindfulness so that you can better be mindful in your daily life, and also to water the seed of mindfulness through active mindfulness practice. So whatever you're doing in your life, be fully present for that activity. When you're present with another person, be there, be completely, totally there with that person, not thinking about something else, or about where else you want to be, or what else you have to get done. Just be there with them. When you are getting something done, when you are working, be fully present with your work. When you're washing dishes, be fully present with the experience of washing the dishes. When you're driving your car, be fully present with the experience of driving your car. And in every experience that you have, in any circumstance that you're in, know that you can relate to it in a way that is bringing about peace, freedom, and happiness. It doesn't have to be a source of stress or unhappiness or misery. It is all dependent upon your mind, your way of viewing, your way of thinking, your way of perceiving, your way of relating to life. So when I'm washing the dishes, rather than being stressed or in a big hurry to get it done, thinking about something else, I can breathe. I can slow down. And I can wash the dish. I can feel the sensations of my hand or of the sponge rubbing against the plate. I can feel the sensations of the water. I can do all of that while maintaining a slow and calm breath, while being in touch with the lack of pain that I'm experiencing in this moment, with realizing the blessing that it is that I've been able to have another meal, that I have dishes to wash, that I have food to eat. I can view things with gratitude, with mindfulness, with awareness, with joy, everything that I do can nourish my joy when I incorporate everything into my mindfulness practice. But if I'm not mindful, if I am forgetful, and I get carried away by my thinking, then it's very easy to fall into habitual patterns of stress, of anxiety, of suffering. And so mindfulness is a protective mechanism. It's a protective tool. It's a tool, it's like a medicine or a supplement for our mental, emotional, spiritual immune system to protect ourselves from the many things that can cause us suffering in this world and in this life, in our society. If we're not mindful, we can get carried away. And so by practicing mindfulness, we protect ourselves. By practicing mindfulness, we have the awareness to choose how it is that we want to live, how it is we want to act, what we want to accept in our lives, what we don't. It's really empowers us to live our lives in a wholesome way, to live our lives in a way that generates peace and happiness within, and to live our lives in a way that no longer creates suffering for ourselves. So my invitation to you is to continue to practice mindfulness every day, to continue to take time to sit in a formal seated mindfulness practice, and to continue to apply mindfulness to everything that you do, and to do it in a way that is fun, to do it in a way that is nourishing of your joy, to do it in a way that doesn't feel like a chore or something that you beat yourself up for when you don't feel you've been mindful enough, or when you've fallen into forgetfulness, not to beat yourself up for it, because it is a practice and it's something we have to be consistent with so that we can receive the benefits. It's like if we're going to the gym and we want to get stronger. We can't expect to work out one day and that we're going to stay in good shape. We have to do it every day. We have to exercise and take care of our bodies. And in the same way, we've got to practice mindfulness and take care of our minds, take care of our hearts and our spirits. So I encourage you to practice mindfulness every day and to use the tools in this course. And I would love to hear your feedback on this course. I would love to hear what your experience was like in this course, either in the comments below this video or in an email to me. I really would value hearing your personal experience and your personal feedback. If there's things that you didn't feel you understood, or things that were confusing, things that were unclear, things that you liked, things you didn't like, I really appreciate hearing the feedback, because it allows me to know how I can create a better course, how I can be of better service to introduce you and others and to help guide in adopting a more mindful way of being. So my personal goal is really to do just that. It's to invite you to be mindful and to show you how you can do it in your life. And so whatever way I can do that better, I'm constantly trying to find and to understand, and your feedback is of great value to me. So I'd really appreciate your feedback, and I really want to thank you once again for taking the time to do this course, taking the time to go through the lessons. And it's my sincere hope that it's really added value to your life, that it's really helped to nourish your mindfulness practice and to nourish your inner peace, and to help you find some freedom from your suffering, from the stress and the anxiety in your life. And I want to close this video by reminding you what I started it with, that freedom is not given to you by another. It's something that you're responsible for, something that you have to cultivate within yourself. And you can do this through mindfulness practice, through looking deeply into these foundations of mindfulness, and through gaining insight into your life, into your experience, and with mindfulness, acting in ways that lead to your peace and avoiding the things that cause you suffering. The power is really in your hands, in the choices that you make every moment and every day. So may you make wise and healthy choices that nourish your mind, nourish your heart, your body. May you share this with others. May you share the joy that you gain through your mindfulness practice with others. May it enlighten your life, and may it enlighten the lives of those around you. So thank you once again, and I wish you much happiness, much mindfulness, and much peace in your life.